Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. For those that haven't followed me or don't know, Gnosis is speaking truth. I'm pretty much the only person out there that is giving you the straight scoop, the truth to anything. Everyone else is highly corrupt. I think they're actually mental cases that they haven't done any research and for one reason or another, have joined the demonic armies out there, which are more than happy to have them. Um, let's talk about an interesting area that I have a lot of personal information in, and that's extreme martial arts, chi energy, chi power, etc. Recently, I've been watching a lot of this on YouTube, tracking down a few people and seeing what they have. And of course, this is something that is not new. You know, martial artists are a strange group of people. Qi Kung, Qi experts, etc. And I lived almost all my life in Southern California. Now, most of the acupuncturists, I believe 70 to 80% of them, are in California because California has a Asian community. The funny thing with the Asian communities, while there's a huge amount of Asians in Los Angeles, most people don't know any Asians. And I never really, I think that in my high school, of course, that was in the 70s, there was one Asian, I believe she was a Japanese girl. And nobody talked with her, and she wasn't very friendly or anything else. Very studious, looked like she was from the 1950s, dressed that way, and apparently was going to go to high school and then go into college and do whatever these people do. Now, there are huge Asian communities in Los Angeles, particularly certain neighborhoods, and that's where they stay. And unless you go to an Oriental restaurant, you generally don't run into too many Orientals. Which is strange, and they don't mix because nobody mixes. This is another thing people are. It's hard enough for all of the quote Europeans who came over here to mix, the Irish, the Italians, and everyone else that came over here, particularly in the early 1900s. Even they slowly blended, and they have all their little communities, and a certain amount of this is understandable, but this is what keeps us apart and what stops our education as well. Um, but you know, you like what you like. Why should you eat sushi if you like pizza? Why? So, this is the reality. So, I've spent most of my life there and was taking care of a sick wife, and we went to a lot of cheap people to see if this could stimulate these particular ways of healing people. So, we talked to pretty much one of the major masters in Qi in Los Angeles and went to several of them and went through their processes, etc. I also met a couple of major Qi masters that came over from China who had a write up in certain books and other things. And what is it all about? What is Qi? Is Qi real? Is it fake? Now, there's a lot of martial artists, and of course, martial artists, as I said, are a strange group of people. Generally, they are kind of dumb people, just as chi masters are, to put it bluntly. These are not your sharp knife in the closet or whatever in the drawer. These are people that get into this. It's a physical thing. It's kind of like bodybuilding. The whole idea, you generally don't work out in a gym all day if you've got a high IQ. Now, there's nothing wrong with that yet again, and there are some people that are very intelligent that are bodybuilders, etc., blah, blah, blah. But in general, people learn martial arts for two reasons: to beat up other people and because they're fearful. Both of these mean that the reason they're going into martial arts is not for any higher consciousness. I also investigated martial arts studios, many of them in Los Angeles, especially when the big 70s Kung Fu TV series was there. Couldn't find really anybody that taught anything worth a damn. And they run their schools pretty much like a military thing there, as most Kung Fu and learning in China is. If you think you're going to learn with David Carradine, grasshopper, we're going to teach you the wisdom and you will learn. No, it's stand at attention, and so forth. And that's what they all do. And I found that quite boring. And Kung Fu in itself is very goofy because they want to make you move like a bird or whatever it is that they do, like a praying mantis, etc. Not something I found very interesting, nor wanted to spend time with. I did take Taekwondo for a while from known people because I didn't live close to the Los Angeles area. I did go to Chuck Norris's studios and practice there a few times, had a couple of lessons from him in Los Angeles, as well as I went to Steven Seagal's studio, but I didn't spend any time with any of these people. The problem is it was too much of a training of a distance from where I lived. To drive an hour each way wasn't really worth it, and it's hard to live a life like that, and it's costly, it's time consuming, and you've got to make a living or do something as well. So these things of course were expensive as well, to a degree. So all of this, so I have a really big, as I said, I've went to all these Chi Masters and talked with them, and have worked with them personally and felt what they did and everything else. Now, one of the problems that comes up with martial arts in particular is their, quote, extreme abilities. And martial artists love to play the warrior magician. They want to fight and they want to know magic. And I've known a lot of these people, particularly, and most of them are really jerks, particularly some of them who I had some direct contact with. And there's a lot of people, and recently, or it's been a year or two, John Tourette from Oregon died recently, and he's another strange one who claimed to have abilities and everything else. And he worked with several other martial artists that are in particularly that area of Oregon, and they all are very questionable in terms of their morality and connections. I worked with another guy who was out there doing things. Really, these people are bad people, and they are many of them, and particularly there's a faction within the martial arts group of people that are con artists and criminals. And you have to really watch these people. What is their background? I have found that most martial artists, though, do know martial arts. They are not a bunch of nobodies. They have practiced. They have done it. They want to claim they're the best at this and they have super abilities. That's all nonsense. I find they're very ignorant and have very poor backgrounds. But, there's a martial artist that I knew who very low credibility and basically was involved in criminal activities, who thought he could use magic and even was using radionic machines, etc. So all of this kind of blends together for those people that are interested in these things. So there is a great mysticism to martial arts that is easily grabbed onto, and people love the mysticism, being able to, of course, the big thing that happened, I don't know, it's been about 20 years now, is Empty Force. Now, Empty Force, written by a particular immigrant to America. I believe he immigrated. He was, and he lived in, of course, another huge community in the San Francisco area. I'm trying to remember his name. What is his last name? Dong. He did the Super Secret Psychics of China, another very rare book. I think, is it Paul Dong or something? And he had the Empty Force book, which can be obtained cheaply online if you're interested in reading that. Now, Empty Force was about creating force and then projecting it without touching the person. Now, is that possible in general? And we're going to get into it. I'm going to make several chapters of this particular talk here, because there's a lot to talk about, and there should be a lot of interest in this. And of course, we have all these camps of delusional people that claim they do so much. Like the U.S. military, who's got $1 trillion budget but can't seem to take out 3 pilots in the ocean. So we have all these problems out there. People claim they cure and they can't, like your doctor. It'd be interesting to have reports on your doctors. How many people died under the treatment of your doctor? The number one cause of death for many years and has been medical malpractice. That's something that they don't talk about recently because they're covering all that up. And of course, death rates after what's happened recently are pretty much have accelerated to about 30% more than normal. But without diving into so many subjects I could spend hours and hours upon, and of course done by a professional researcher myself of 50 years, of a person who has reached the highest state a human can reach, which is way above Buddha heads and all this other nonsense. So these people have very inferior thought forms. So if you're going to get information from people who really aren't of high consciousness, you've got a serious problem, because you're going to get garbage information. Now, getting back to these chi people, as I said, I have first-hand information here, as well as doing lots of other research. Now, empty force was basically projecting chi at somebody and hitting them from a distance. Now, I'm not even sure how, if this even was possible. I'm not sure how effective it would be anyway, because you're not going to be able to punch like a bad Hollywood movie. And this is what people expect. You know, when people look at things, they don't understand the realities of it all. They want Hollywood stuff. Some of it is very Hollywood. We're going to talk about people who have demonstrated this and who have done it out there and even done it on film and how you can do it. And this is not unusual. Now, of course, hitting somebody at a distance is, and it's an awful lot of chi building up and releasing, because if you hit somebody at a distance, unless there is some way to trigger a deadly energy point on that person, it's not going to do that much other than that. So you've basically shot your wad, and you have a problem with the fact that you're not going to be able to do this consistently. There's just not that much energy. So this is all part of the reality that's out there that we have to understand as well. So Empty Force was doing that. I don't know if he ever demonstrated it. You know, within that book, which is very typical as well, and all the things that when you get into the real life of it that few people are talking about. Now, the author of Empty Force has this typical Asian racism. And racism goes through everybody. You know, they want to blame, quote, white people, whoever they are. Certainly aren't the Arabic Germans, who are basically Iranians. People think they're white, they're Arabs. So, I mean, when we even get into race, people don't even understand that. The Celts, the Irish, and of course, certain other groups are from the Caucasus Mountains are what you would, quote, classify as Caucasians, which is probably a better term than white people, whatever that means. You know, blonde hair and blue eyes is a birth defect from interbreeding. It is not something that is generated from a particular race of people. So when we get into all these things, we have to understand a lot of stuff that you are just ignorant of and really need to get your proverbial poo together. He stated in the book that, this happened to Bruce Lee, by the way. Bruce Lee was attacked by his own Chinese people. Bruce Lee was 1/4 German, by the way. Meaning that he was a German Arab or part Iranian. So the whole idea is that first of all, people didn't like him getting trained in Kung Fu because he wasn't pure Chinese. And secondly, they attacked Bruce Lee physically and sent people after him because of the fact that he was teaching the white man. So they didn't want their arts to go outside of their country. And of course, this is very typical of the dogma out there. But he states in his book that he doesn't think that teaching Westerners is worth anything because they don't really have the concentration or the mental attitude to dedicate themselves for basically a lifetime to do things. And I do agree with them. The point is that this is not something, and trying to dedicate yourself a lifetime to doing something, I find is a backwards way of thinking. The whole idea is to get up to a certain degree of competency as fast as possible, instead of spending your entire life and finding out at the end of that road, which is so typical in so many practices, that there really isn't much there. You can you go through 20 years of Scientology and come to the end of it and you find there is nothing there. And this is so true about so many paths. But the whole idea is that you're not going to learn amazing things quickly either, but there are ways of doing it. The whole idea is to use a combination of things to go up empowerment pretty quickly, and then from there you're an expert, and from there you become a master, which takes a lot of dedication. So he states right in his book, and this is pretty much the attitude of Asians as well, is the fact that they don't really want to teach the lazy Westerners who are not going to dedicate themselves, and apparently don't. Now, I don't know how all these systems for China and everything else, they go generational. Try and find a family that is stuck together for generations that is Western. Good luck. So I don't know how they do all this and pass things on, etc. But this is very typical of the Asian traditions again, and very different than what we have. They go by names. He's this master and that master of the martial arts, and has their particular qualifications because of that. So all of this is part of a tradition that very few people understand, and a reality that we need to understand. So he talks about it right there, and you can read the book. And as I said, this is an inexpensive book. The great secret to this empty force was standing for hours and hours and hours. Now, I've stood for hours and hours at many different jobs where you have to stand on your feet most of the day. It certainly didn't empower me, it just weakened me. And of course, this is just a type of Qigong where you're standing and condensing your energies into particularly your root chakra, where you can then bring that energy up, which is and then use it. I've never known anybody that really have gotten any results from this. And again, can you believe anybody? The problem is the Asians, like everybody else, want to be mystical warriors. And this is part of their tradition. Their kung fu films were particularly early kung fu films where they used a lot of qi. They would scratch images on the film to look like lightning bolts coming out of them. So this is all part of it. Can you believe it? Because I did see a qi master who demonstrated what appeared to be some fairly good qi. And then after doing this, he went ahead and did magic tricks, particularly starting fires, where he actually started newspapers on fire. And it's quite obvious that he was placing things underneath it, claiming he was starting fires using chi power, which just has not been proven to be that. But they certainly can take their chi energy and they can put their hand on you and burn your skin. But they're not going to get it to a level where it's going to set things on fire. But see, this is what happens when you get somebody, because he wants to be a supercharged chi guy, he wants to be a celebrity, and this is all part of life. So even so-called credible people will play that game to get bigger attention and play the Hollywood game. And things are made in Hollywood movies because they're not in real life. So Hollywood wouldn't make movies if everybody could set things on fire and use chi to knock someone across the room. They wouldn't make a movie showing that, because everybody does it. What, you want to go to the movies and pay, what is it now, $15 to watch somebody do something you can find in your street corner? So it doesn't make much sense, and we have to be very, very careful of that. And if we run into so many things, there's a lot of people out there that are being criticized unjustifiably. And I'm going to get into areas that probably people will find ridiculous, that people who do have power, that people are saying don't have power. And of course, it's very difficult to judge this, and anybody that would make the kind of claims, I would want them to demonstrate it on me personally. For a sensei, a particular teacher, to actually demonstrate on his students of what he's doing is fraudulent. Your students are going to do whatever you tell them to do, and they're certainly not going to make you look funny. They're in a family. They've trained under these people for hours. They spend a huge part of their life with these people. They're going to do what you tell them. When you see these martial arts masters moving their hands and people that are falling all over them, this is complete nonsense. This is fake, as 90% of all these martial arts demonstrations where people are knocking people down are fake. It's all nonsense, as simple as that. So when you have problems like that, then you can't really trust anybody. And you can't trust anybody because they may be realistic or do one time and the other time not. Now, is it possible to do these things? Well, I've felt it and seen it demonstrated to me personally in terms of using different power points or fatiguing points within the body where you can knock somebody down by just putting chi energy into that meridian, which weakens them. Now, acupuncture is very fascinating. Acupuncture does work to a certain degree, like everything. And of course, you can send positive energies to open a meridian, or you can close it. So if you open a meridian and it heals someone, well, you can close a meridian and hurt someone and even physically weaken them. Not only that, and I've been doing this for years, I can take a sigil on a piece of paper, have you hold it, and I can totally weaken you. So I usually do this to big guys with these big muscles, and then you have them hold this piece of paper, you have them put their arm out to muscle test them, and it drops like a ball of cotton. They can't trigger their muscle. Now, I've done this hundreds of times using just a sigil, which is the reason why I have moved into using sigils so much in all of my other work, is that this is proof that scalar energies, these are non-electromagnetic energies in terms of just a pattern, but it's working through a certain electromagnetic energy, which is your body. But, that's the crude part of the energies of your body. Most of your body is scalar type energies, which are non-electromagnetic. So the whole idea is that all you have to do is have that person with their, assuming their dominant is their right hand, have them with their left hand, hold this sigil against their solar plexus and put their right arm out, their strong dominant arm, and it goes down like a feather. They can't stop it. I've done this, as I said, all the time. Now, I could prove this anywhere, anytime, any place. So, and I used to carry these sigils with me and demonstrate them often. But the point is that is real. Now, you get bozos out there that want to criticize everybody because there's a few frauds. One of them is Mick Dojo, who is a big fan of the unamazing Randi, the little sexual deviant liar, and whatever you want to add to that in terms of every filthy thing you can think of. James Randi was a scumbucket, and everyone he's associated with is a scumbucket, like Penn and Teller and everything else, the little deviates that these people are. Secondly, Randi made sure that he did all sorts of bad, lying, cheating stuff and would never test anybody, and of course, that had any power. And the fact is that many people were able to prove to him they had power, and he never gave his money out there. And it's as simple as that. So all of that is there. And so, and first of all, if you're a legitimate scientific organization, certainly his organization never was. And he was funded by very dubious sources, including a lot of actual pharmaceutical companies, because they wanted him to go after alternative healing, which he did, things like homeopathy and other things. And of course, all of this money was there to keep him going. To a guy also who used to pick up young boys in libraries and bring them to his house. Everyone should know that he is he's a gay person, and this was one of his manipulative things that he used to do. It's really sad that that's the case. So looks like we're having some, I don't know if people can hear that, having a rainstorm here. Now, the whole idea of all of this is the fact that these are the kind of people you're dealing with. Now, Mick Dojo thinks that he's going to change everything out there and tell everybody who frauds are. Now, there are frauds in everything. 90% of the population are frauds. Delusional people and everything else. So what does all that mean? Well, the bottom line is that these frauds are in every area. You think your doctor's not a fraud? You think your local law enforcement is a fraud? Do you think your military is not a fraud? Well, I haven't found hardly anybody that isn't a fraud. So they do minimal things to get minimal results, and they steal a lot of money from you. They're frauds. They are deceivers and liars, and they work with criminals that guide them on a daily basis. So the point is that that's what's out. So to think that there are people copying psychics and doing fake martial arts things and doing little magic tricks, so what? What does that mean? It means nothing, because that's happening all the time. Your doctor's lying to you. Basically, people spend all their medical insurance for the last few months before they die because your doctor can't save you the minute you get very sick and go in the hospital. So, I mean, this is what everything in life boils down to. What has the military solved? Is the world peaceful? Do you feel comfortable now? Our military, and of course that's not the case, but the two largest buildings and several other ones around them, called the trade centers, were blown up. Did your police and military stop that? Well, we all know the government did that, but that's another story. Can we stop pirates on the sea? I don't think so. So we send troops in to murder people in other countries under the guise they're doing something. And of course, these psychopathic murderers called your special forces and everything else. So, there's the good guys. What are the good guys? Give me a break. But the bottom line is you got all sorts of people that are talking nonsense and deceiving you and taking your money. People don't even build houses right. Most of the houses around the world now are built by people that are thrown up there, built as cheaply as possible, and then they run away and the government is in on it. So do we really have to look at medicine and everything else which is suppressed? So we go on and on. So to think that you want to, and the problem with McDojo is that he condemns everybody, being the unamazing Randy fan that he is. And of course, Randy, as I said, has been caught in lies and everything else on a consistent basis. Thank goodness he is now dead and in hell. So the whole idea is that these people are committing crimes against humanity by denying areas that need to be researched that will give us the answers to all the things we seek. And that isn't Dumbadamia and the physicists who can't even figure out how to get free energy or figure out how to cure anything, including dandruff, pimples, and farting. So the whole idea is this is what we can thank science for. Thank you, science. So the whole idea is we have all these problems out there, and of course, they have given us no solutions. So getting back to the Qi, now I've been to the top Qi people and have felt their power and experienced what they're doing. And now there's pros and cons to all of this. And of course, they all claim a lot more than they can do. Meaning the fact is I've never seen Qi cure anybody, even though there are people that claim they got consistent treatments. And these Qi masters seem to be quite greedy. And you have to go there a lot, get lots of treatments, just like acupuncture. And the fact is that ultimately, while it does help you and make you feel better, I haven't seen it cure much. And it's something you have to do a lot of to keep the energy flowing. So to think you're going to heal yourself by getting a few acupuncture needles going through your body, feeling really good for a couple of days, that doesn't cure you if you have any serious problem. But of course, people are helped by this, and I think it's head and shoulders above the poison medicines and the crap your doctor gives you, where society tells them to put a bunch of poisons in something and they give it to you. So the whole idea with that is to understand the reality of that as well. Now, the problem with people that go and condemn everybody is they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. This is typical, of course, even with Scientologists who certainly have a legitimate reason to reject Scientology, particularly Eric Berg's son, who hates Scientology and his father because of the abuse he suffered from it. And I certainly understand that, having a very abusive father myself. But it doesn't mean I'm going to condemn that. So my father was an aeronautical engineer. I fly on planes. I'm not going to not go on planes because he was an idiot that was an engineer for them. So you can't condemn air flight because your particular connection to it. So Eric Berg's son condemns all natural treatments, and Dr. Berg, while his information is pretty good, I find a lot of holes in it, and his research could be much better than it is. And I don't think he does spend that much time on it, but whatever. Certainly there's some interesting and helpful information that he puts out, and people like it. So to say that natural medicine is all bad and vitamins are all bad, and then say that pharmaceutical companies are good, is a knee-jerk reaction of stupidity. It shows a very low intelligent person who does that. Speaking of that, McDojo is exactly that. So being up the bottom of the unamazing Randy, he thinks that anything like this is impossible. Well, obviously he hasn't done much research. And of course, the frauds out there who've made a lot of money from fake martial arts and who are good at it, they're just kind of magicians, lead the way and generally are discovered. One of them out there that's famous for his PowerPoint techniques, George Dillman. Now, George Dillman is all over YouTube with a particularly bad video that he did when he was tested, I believe, by NBC or something. I don't know if it's 60 Minutes or whatever. And of course, these guys get big egos, and I think they're sincere. But do you really think you can knock somebody down at a distance? It amazes me with a lot of these martial artists, the little fat little guys they are. They're out of shape. They're eating garbage food. They're not physically fit. And but the Qi works. It does? Well, that certainly isn't the diet. I'm sure they're eating lots of meat and everything else. Qi lives off of more sun-type energies, which is more of a vegetarian diet, which, of course, is how the body functions better in general if you don't have any physical problems. But And there are many diets, but the bottom line is that generally you're talking about high energy or light foods. With their beer bellies, I'm not sure what they got, because the whole idea is people that have bellies like that, meaning that their pancreas isn't working right, that's how you get a beer belly. And it was all those carbs your pancreas is kicking out and putting it in your stomach to kind of simplify it. So we have all these particular problems that we have to look at. Now, Dillman is an interesting guy and has international schools, and I'm sure he's making a fortune with his special touch. You touch somebody, this weakens them, and then they fall to the floor. Again, he was trying to do this at a distance because it's so dramatic, but why you would bring in a film crew and film this when you haven't done it on enough people is kind of stupid. But Dillman comes off to me as kind of a dork. He's kind of a stooge. He talks stupid stuff. And when he was then brought up on this of why it didn't work, he goes into the little tricks of how to counter someone's psychic energy, which had really nothing to do with it, short-circuiting yourself so the energy didn't go in you. But is very interesting with Dillman is that he also has a lot of that he shows very varied people, and they were not all his students, where he touches people in certain areas, sends chi in there, and they fall to the floor. Now, from what I can see, and I've watched these things over and over again like a true researcher, and this doesn't seem to be fake. These people look like they've had what I've seen in personal life, a seizure, where your whole body, well, not the shaking seizure, but boom, you just fall to the ground. You have absolutely no control of it, and it certainly looks real to me. Now, I would have to test that. Now, he was unable to do that at a distance, but if you go up to somebody and you push your chi into a particular meridian, you can stop the flow there, stop the flow to the brain, stop the flow to other places, and boom. So you're going to go down. As I said, you can do this with a simple one-dimensional sigil. And this is 100% provable at any time, any place. Nothing special has to be done. Nothing. Hold this sigil, put your arm out, boom, you're dead. You're not dead, but you're not going to have any power in that whatsoever. So this is the end of part 1. We'll pick up in part 2.